the reason we're getting together today is to talk about the Telos Testnet. And I like how you coined the unboinking the Telos Testnet. How did the Telos Testnet get boinked? And that's something that I know the community kind of needs to know.
Well, boinked is a real technical term, so it's not broken that bad per se. There is a table in the back end that stores some block producer information that has some dates that we believe got kind of crunched up. This information is still there, it's just not working right. So long story short, we've been trying to fix it. Super nerds are banging away on it and hadn't been able to really get things back in line. So because the testnet's used for applications to test their apps on and everything like that, the decision was made to roll the chain back to before the corruption was in those tables.
Right.
And then replay everything going forward, and everybody can go on about their business. And then we're taking a copy of the side chain off, or the busted testnet, and carving it off into an isolated environment and testing out further over there.
How long ago did this happen? Did the boinking occur?
So I'd say, I don't remember the exact date.
Sure.
I think a couple weeks ago.
Wasn't it? Okay,
we picked up on it pretty quick, and then, like I said, it took a week or two for people to try.
And just to explain what boinking means, right? Essentially, the testnet crashed.
No, nothing like that. The testnet did not crash. We were signing blocks, we were processing transactions, everything was great. Really, the biggest noticing factor that you would be from an end user would be the block explorers and the listing of the block producers and everything. It couldn't read that table of all the block producers. So the schedules and everything were still changing. We were still signing our blocks every 2 minutes and 6 seconds, 12 at a time. So things were working along, and that's why it took a few weeks, before we finally made the decision to try to roll it back. And so really what we did is the testnet continued to run and up until we got everything fixed, and then we just switched it out. So everybody that was using the testnet and everybody that's interacting with it pretty much saw a seamless switch out going back in time.
Wow.
But, I mean, that's what we do.
That is so cool. And the testnet serves as the second step in the Telos process, right?
Yeah, so one of the kind of unique aspects of the Telos community is that we kind of have a first level called the stage net, where all of us super geeks get together. Stage net, correct. And basically that's like where all the new 1.8, we're getting ready to test 1.8 and stuff like that. The new code from Block 1.
Right.
And to make sure, hey, when we install this
core code.
So think about it like this. Whenever I upgrade my node, I have to be able to talk to one of the other nodes and exchange blocks and everything like that.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's the real core fundamental what you think of. Yes, there's all these other features like Rex and things like that that we're working on trying to implement. But when it really comes down to it, all of those block producers have to be able to actually talk and produce.
Sure.
And that's what we kind of do on the stage net and make sure everything goes there. And then we start, the secondary phase is kind of go to the testnet. And that's really where apps are starting to interact with
where the devs live.
There's more transactions. There's real world people per se. They're not real world transactions.
Well, they're testing their things.
Correct. I mean, there's, I don't know what all transactions are going on the chain, on the testnet, but, people are actively doing it because it doesn't cost real money to do things there. And then once you do it there, you roll it out to the main net. So anyway, long story short, that's
so unboinking. We've unboinked it?
Yep. So what we did is the process was to find a spot in the chain where it was no longer, or it had not been corrupted yet. And then Kalios, Jesse over at Kalios, Mark over at Vancouver, and ourselves, we independently took our copies of the original chain and replayed them to a point where it was just before the table broke and stopped. And so basically rolled back in time on the chain. So everything up to that point is still exactly the same as it was. And from that point, we then all joined together as a kind of secondary testnet while the original testnet kept going and kept working right here. And then slowly started bringing all of the VPs into the mix to get to the 21 to be able to move the chain forward. And 21.
Wow.
So anyway, that was the concept. Now, it's a very, very delicate process because it's the same chain as testnet. So ultimately, if you cross the two nodes up, they tended to kind of get a little confused on which one was the right one. And during the process, we did actually have a bad block get in there. And Jesse kind of joked is that it's more effective than a virus because as soon as it hit, we all immediately scattered it out.
Wow.
And so we all just rolled back to the original
So you do it
snapshot.
again.
Yeah. So we were validating things all
Right,
along.
right.
So you
I
saw
gotcha.
it happen pretty quickly. But
It's so
just
cool
to
that
say-
that's possible, though.
well, I mean, it's a delicate thing. And that's
I mean,
what,
it's like you were driving two vehicles down the road and you were able to transfer something from one to the other as you were moving. You know what I mean?
ultimately, like I say, to fix a problem, I mean, that's what us BPs do. I mean,
Yeah.
we keep the chain running, and the data developers know no different, and the end
Right.
users using them know no different as well.
Why is having a test network important?
Well, you definitely wouldn't want to have to do this on the main net.
Okay.
So
Fair.
that's in a nutshell. So you want to do it as least impactful as possible and slowly work your way in there. So that's really why we do it.
Going forward, what are you and the other super nerds, as you call them, doing to make sure the issue is addressed and it's not repeatable?
So we couldn't really immediately solve the problem in the test net and even have the freedom to really stress things because it's in use as a test net. So where we have the stage net, test net, main net, we've actually created this fourth network, which is the copy of the old test net network. It's not really doing any transactions, but there's several of us that are still signing blocks and keeping it alive and active. I'm running a state history on it, and Jesse and them are using it to try to dig into the history and figure out who was who caused whatever malformed data, and then how do we prevent that from happening, or what was the cause? Was it old code that got in there? Was it new code that got in there? It caused an issue with a small piece in the core component of the chain.
Big deal.
And big deal because it needed to be fixed, but not a big deal because the mechanics of the chain still continued to work. Like I say, you could still.
Well, what's cool about
job.
that's delegated proof of stake, right? That you can update your code. You don't have to fork like the other, proof of work coins that we've seen in the past.
Well, and also the beauty of the governance is that we're able to herd our cats together and get everybody like I say, because it took the 21 official block producers to get together because on the secondary chain, we still existed as the exact same entity as we did on the other chain. So, Jesse and us, we really couldn't pretend very easily to be somebody else because that's the whole point of I can't be them. They are them, and they're guaranteed to be them. Well, I need them to guarantee to be them over here too.
Thanks, bud. Appreciate it.
Awesome.